Womanjika everyone, Womanjika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandans, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Watharong and Dja-dja-wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover, Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Moolatti Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragaeta, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil the wedge-tailed eagle is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria, or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day.
Woman Jika, everyone. Woman Jika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne, and I'm an elder of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future, and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of three families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandans, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The three families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Watharong and Dja And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw, south to the Moolally Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragator, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day.
Woman Jika, everyone. Woman Jika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne, and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people. And in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders, past, present, future, and any elders that were here today. And I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Wurrung tribe consists of 3 families: the Nevins, the Terricks, and the Wandans. And I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Watharong and Dja And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Moolatti Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome to the council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day.
Woman Jika, everyone. Woman Jika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne, and I'm an elder of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future, and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of three families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandans, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The three families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Watharong and Dja And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw, south to the Morley Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragator, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30pm. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day.
Woman Jika, everyone. Woman Jika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne, and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people. And in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders, past, present, future, and any elders that were here today. And I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks, and the Wandans, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Watharong and Dja And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Morley Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil the wedge-tailed eagle is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome to the council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day. Welcome everyone to the Council meeting for the 26th of September 2023, which I now declare open at 6:32. I'd like to warmly welcome members of the public in the gallery who have joined us this evening, as well as those watching at home online. As well as being live streamed, the video of this recording will be available on our website, so attendees in the gallery are advised that your presence may be recorded. I also ask that mobile phones be switched to silent mode during the meeting. A final reminder as well that under Governance Rule 75.1, personal video and audio recording in the chamber of the meeting is not allowed. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their spirits, ancestors, elders and community members, past, present and emerging. And we also extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Item 2 is apologies and leave of absence, and councillors, I note that Councillor Byrne and Councillor Nation have joined us via Zoom tonight. Welcome. And I'll also note that we've received an apology, or I have received an apology from Councillor Bedio. Item 3 is the confirmation of minutes. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Sypek?
I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Is there a seconder? Sorry, Councillor Sypek, that lapses, so I'll just ask if there's a mover for the confirmation.
Sorry, I had my hand up, but that's all right.
Sorry, Councillor Nation, missed you. I think that was a bit too late. Councillor Isa?
I'd like to move that the minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday the 12th of September be confirmed with the following amendment. Item 9.4, 47 Fisher Parade, Ascot Vale, Lot 1, on Title Plan 599943K, hyphen construction of 2 dwellings in a significant landscape overlay, SLO4, design and development overlay, DDO1 and DDO2, incorporated plan overlay, IPO and alter access in a transport road zone be updated from council resolves to issue a planning permit in relation to planning permit application number MV657/2022 to council resolves to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit application number MV/657/2022.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, just that we need to make that alteration because an objection was received prior to council making a decision on the planning permit.
Thank you. Would you like to
Councillor
speak?
Tyson, I'll just declare a conflict in that minuted item that's been read. So, just a general conflict. If I could step out of the meeting, I wasn't sure where that was going to be mentioned.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Nation. We'll just ask that Councillor Nation be moved into the waiting room. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak? No? Would any other councillor like to speak to the item? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. We'll now welcome Councillor Nation back. Welcome back, Councillor Nation. It wasn't a long item. So we'll now move on to item 4, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors, do we have any declarations of conflict of interest? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a excuse me. I have a general conflict of interest with items 9.5 and 9.8 on the agenda for reasons previously disclosed to the CEO in writing in accordance with our governance rules.
Thank you. Any others? Councillor Isa.
Thanks. So I'd like to declare general conflicts of interest for item 9.2 and 12.1, and written notice with reasons has been provided to the CEO in accordance with Governance Rule 2.2.
Thank you. Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. Declare a general conflict of interest in 10.2 for reasons previously disclosed to the CEO. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more? Thank you, everyone. We now move on to item 5, presentations. Councillors, do we have any presentations? If not, item 6 is petitions and joint letters. And councillors, do we have any petitions or joint letters? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. Council has received a petition from approximately 60 residents of Moonee Valley requesting that Council consider a new position on a proposed pedestrian crossing on Stanley Street. Thank you.
Thank you. And in accordance with Governance Rule 62.4, I refer that petition to the CEO for consideration. Councillors, are there any other petitions or joint letters? Councillor Nation.
Yes, Mayor, just presenting that Council received a joint letter from 2 residents of Moonee Valley requesting an amendment to point 17 of Moonee Valley City Council's busking guidelines, which states buskers must not use mains voltage or battery amplification. The joint letter outlines issues with current busking provisions and requests amendments to be made to change the current state of busking in the municipality.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. And in accordance with Governance Rule 62.4, I refer that joint letter to the CEO for consideration. Thank you. Item 7 is public question time, and we have 6 on the agenda this evening. The first is from Jodie Kinnersley, who I understand has not joined us this evening. 2 of Jodie's questions have been combined for the sake of brevity, so a combined response can be provided. So on behalf of Jodie, in her words, the first question is, will Council fly the trans flag to mark Trans Day of Remembrance on 20 November 2023? And will Council hold an event on Coming Out Day on 11 October 2023 in support of the local LGBTIQA+ community? Thank you, Jodie. I'll ask our CEO to respond.
Thank you, Jodie. Through the Mayor. While Council does not have plans to fly flags or hold an event on the 2 specific days mentioned in your question, Moonee Valley City Council is proud of our diverse community and holds many annual inclusive activities and events that celebrate the diversity of our gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, colour, disability, culture and language backgrounds. In September 2022, Moonee Valley City Council undertook community consultation to determine which days, weeks, and months of significance were of the most relevance to the community for 2023. Consequently, it was identified that the community felt that Council should support a range of significant days, weeks, months in relation to culture, religion, gender identity, and sexual orientation, including Midsummer Pride, At Hobbit, and Wear It Purple Day, all which have been celebrated this year. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Jodie. Questions 2 and 3 are from Naomi Southest, who is not joining us either this evening. Naomi's question is regarding the demolishing/building at 2 Wood Street, Ascot Vale. Will the Council actively monitor the build to ensure the significant trees' roots are not damaged? And I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Naomi. Through the Chair. A planning permit was issued for demolition and construction of 2 new dwellings at this property in October 2022. A condition of planning approval required the submission of a tree management plan to ensure the adequate protection of the significant tree. Council will continue to actively monitor this site to ensure compliance with the planning permit. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. And the follow-up question is, what steps have been taken/implemented by Council to protect this significant tree?
Thank you, Naomi. Through the Mayor. Council's planning enforcement team, along with Council's arborists, have been on-site monitoring the demolition works and have issued directives to ensure that demolition is being carried out in accordance with the recommendations contained within the tree management plan. Follow-up site visits are scheduled this week, and the developer is fully aware of the obligation under the planning permit. Council will continue to actively monitor this site to ensure compliance with the planning permit. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Questions 4 and 5 tonight from Logan Shield, who is not joining us in person. So I'll ask on behalf of Logan What is the value of tree 356, the lemon-scented gum at 2 Wood Street, Ascot Vale, under Council's determination of full value of trees for reinstatement costs method? I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Nogan. Through the Mayor, the total amenity value is approximately $98,183. There are 4 components of this valuation. Removal costs would not be applicable in these circumstances, as Council would not remove a tree from private property. Amenity value is $96,419.68. Ecological services value is approximately $1,159. Reinstatement cost is $605. Thank you.
Thank you. And a follow-up from Logan is, what is the maximum penalty if a significant or canopy tree is removed, destroyed, or irreparably damaged without a permit to do so?
Thank you, Nogan. Through the Mayor, a fine of $1,000 plus amenity value would apply under Council's local law for removing a tree without a local law permit. From planning enforcement perspective, it is likely that prosecution would be pursued in the event the protected tree were to be removed. The exact penalty amount would be determined as part of the case and decided by the presiding magistrate. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is and the final question is from Michelle McCullough, who is not joining us this evening. Michelle asks, can Council and Councillors please provide an update on what is being done to advocate for improvements to the dangerous intersection where Keilor Road meets Mount Alexander Road, Lincoln and Buller Roads? And I'll ask our CEO to respond.
Thank you, Michelle. Through the Mayor, Council's Advocacy Strategy 2022 to 2025 seeks the Victorian Government's commitment to upgrade the Moonee Ponds Junction and to create a plan for improved safety and amenity at the Eastern and Eastern North intersections. To support these advocacy objectives, Council has developed a Mount Alexander Road advocacy prospectus for distribution to key external stakeholders. The prospectus places emphasis on the importance of the Mount Alexander Road and the road safety incidents of the past for state and federal government members. It also seeks road safety improvement opportunities and funding commitments at the Eastern North intersection and other locations on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. We now move on to item 9, reports, and the first item is 9.1, community standards for signage in sports grounds and reserves, consultation update. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. And a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Isa.
Look, this has obviously been an issue that's come to the Chamber many times, and I think we've finally got to a really good place, really good balance of all of the interests around this very complicated issue. So a big thanks to all of the sports clubs who participated in the consultation on this, and to community members who participated as well, and to the officers who've worked through all of that to arrive, I think, at some standards that really do meet that balance between supporting clubs to raise money through sponsorship to support their activities, and doing our best to respect the planning scheme, which has such strict provisions. So really glad that we finally got some guidelines that that I think are clear for all clubs and provide for different types of infrastructure at different grounds. And so again, thank all the people who've got us to this place. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Mayor. Happy to support the updated standards. As Councillor Isa just said, I think they strike a reasonable balance of differing community opinions and expectations, and work well to give a framework for officers to refer to until reform at the state level occurs. In saying this, I am supportive of not progressing a local planning scheme amendment due to the major expense this would incur. Signage in sporting grounds is a statewide issue that all councils are grappling with, and I'm in favour of council advocating for statewide planning scheme reform. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, the signage in sporting grounds has been a long road to get to this point, but I'm just reading on the table of amendments here, and there is something that has been brought to my attention that I'm a little concerned about. We have changed the description of, rather than saying face away from sensitive landscape environs and nearby residents when located within 30 metres of these areas, to not be located within 30 metres of sensitive environs such as native habitats and the like. I'm concerned at that aspect of it because, for example, Strathnaver Soccer Club and Strathmore Cricket Club, who both use Strathnaver Reserve, I'm pretty sure that the distance between the fences and the edge of Moonee Ponds Creek would not be more than 30 metres. So it'd be within that 30 metre zone, which could potentially mean that those two clubs who use those grounds won't be able to put up signage. So I haven't been made aware of this change until I'm literally reading it now. So I think that is going to cause massive issues if two clubs, particularly the Winter Soccer Club, can't put up signage when every other winter club, footy and soccer and every other winter sport will be able to, potentially. So I think we may be causing further issues with that. I was very happy with the words face away from sensitive landscape environs, because obviously if you're facing away, it doesn't have the visual impact that it does on the creek, considering these signs are pinned to fences, so you're always going to have the visual impact from the fence. But to state not be located within 30 metres, I'm concerned at that. So I'd probably like to foreshadow, and I'll make an amendment. I won't foreshadow anything. Also, and I could be incorrect on this, but when we first put the standards up, we had a certain percentage. It looks like that percentage has changed. And I don't think that was discussed either at the briefing last week, so I haven't picked up on that either. But I will put up an alternative, if I can. An amendment, please.
An amendment? Yep. Did you need an adjournment to
Would you prefer me to have?
time to... I'd be happy to provide a 4-minute adjournment if you wanted to use that to bring words together, if required.
Sorry, Mayor.
That's quite all right, Councillor Sharp. So I'll call a 4-minute adjournment, returning at 6:55 for the purposes of possibly bringing words together for an amendment. So we'll be back soon. Welcome back, everyone, and we're on item 9.1, and we've had a motion moved by Councillor Isa, seconded by Councillor Adams, and Councillor Sharp was speaking to the report, and Councillor Sharp was considering moving an amendment, and she has 50 seconds of speaking time left. So I call on Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I am considering moving an amendment to defer this report, but I'm not sure if that can be an amendment. That'd be an amendment. Can I put up an amendment to defer the report? Because I think we need to probably look at this in more detail potentially, because it can really jeopardise two clubs.
I'll take that as a point of clarification, just confirm governance. Councillor Sharp, having considered your point of clarification, I probably would say that the amendment is substantially contrary to what's been moved, so couldn't be accepted as an amendment. Did you want to continue your speaking time or move an amendment?
I will, if that's okay.
Yep.
I think we really need to be careful that we're not going to jeopardise two clubs through this potentially. So I think it'd be very beneficial for all councillors to have another chat about these standards, understanding that this is feedback that has been received from the second round of consultation. It's feedback, yes, but it doesn't mean that it is actually going to work in practice, in actual reality to a degree. And I really don't want to have the issue next year of two clubs being jeopardised by not being able to put any signage up. I think we're all aware that every club needs to put signage up. Our clubs use it for sponsorship and the like. It's very important. And I think that we all need to be really across what we're endorsing here, because it is going to be what is used in practice. So I'd like to foreshadow and a deferral.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I appreciate what Councillor Sharp is saying, but my reading of the officer's report is that the sensitive landscape overlay, I believe it's called the SLO, yes, significant landscape overlay, has some pretty clear character objectives, and given that we're trying to strike a balance between what's in the planning scheme at the moment and how we manage that in practice, my reading of the report is that the officers are indicating that the significant landscape overlay sort of within that 30-metre buffer zone tips in favour of protecting the visual impact of signage. And so whilst I understand the concerns up at that particular sporting ground in Strathnava, I am generally supportive of the guidelines, and I think it does a lot, and it's been a year in the making of trialling these guidelines. The feedback and the outcome proposed is that we reinstate that originally proposed buffer, and I actually think it's quite important. So I'm supportive of the officer's recommendation in this instance. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Sypek, I think Councillor Nation beat you to it there. Sorry, Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. Sorry, Councillor Sypek. Look, I do want to pick up on Councillor Sharp's point that it is a significant change, and there's a couple of reasons why. One, while the table talks about it being 30 metres from the waterway edge, it actually doesn't specify that in the change. It specifies sensitive environs such as native habitats, conservation areas and waterways. So I feel like the interpretation in the final part of that table is not quite accurate, because it is not just the waterways, it is what could be considered native habitats. We know that a lot of these sporting grounds are built on areas that back onto waterways or are close to waterways, because it's land that cannot be built on, and that's why we have playing fields in the middle of suburban areas. I don't think it is also just Strathnava. Having a quick look on Google Maps, Lebanon Reserve, that whole outer wing is only 7 metres from Mooney Ponds Creek. Essendon Hockey Club, the 2 pitches, according to this Google distance, is about 8 to 9 metres from Mooney Ponds Creek. Boeing Reserve, I know it's not all got fences at the baseball field, but that's 16 metres. Maribyrnong Park, Canning Reserve. Canning Reserve sits at about 22 metres down the goals end. AJ Davis, obviously, there isn't fencing there at the moment. They put up their temporaries, but that backs onto Steel Creek, and Strathnava. So I think there are implications here that potentially just that little wording of not having inward facing, but instead of being inward facing, not having it all, maybe we haven't actually considered the ramifications it will have on quite a few of the clubs. The other point I just wanted to pick up, because it probably doesn't sit that well on that table of amendments. I'm a little bit unsure about the home ground reference, because in point 3 it says signs must be located only at the club, I take it means club home grounds. But then in the definition it says ensures that signs are installed at sites that the club considers their home ground and can provide the most benefit to a club and its sponsors. So I don't know if they have 2 main home grounds that they host games at, they can have them at the home grounds like it says in that second part of the table, or if that part is saying no, if you play home games at 2 venues, you can only have signs at 1. That and the change to that 30 metres from waterways not facing inwards has placed doubt in my mind. I'd be happy to support a deferral. I think there's been a significant amount of work that has gone into this, and we probably just need to make sure that at the last hurdle, we're not going to trip up clubs who have been willing participants to try to find an outcome here, that we prevent them from actually getting what they need, which is that recognition of those sponsors that helps fund their junior programs.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Councillor Nation.
Councillor Sypek now.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to... Sorry, Councillor Isa?
Mayor, I'd like to seek to withdraw the motion.
Yes. Seconder of the motion, Councillor Adams. You would like to withdraw as well? Thank you. I will now move back to the report. Is there a motion? Councillor Sharp.
Mayor, could we please, could the recommendation please read that Council resolves to defer this report to the next Council meeting?
Thank you. Just wait for governance to take those words down.
We'll just ask you to repeat it once more, Councillor Sharp, for governance. That Council resolves to
Defer this report to the next council meeting.
Thank you. And I'll just ask, no issues from governance? No. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Sharp.
I don't think I need anything further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sypek? No. Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I'm really disappointed to have to defer this. This has been through 2 weeks of discussion. We had a strategic briefing last week where councillors could have raised any issues. It's been through weeks and months of consultation. At the last time this came to the meeting, we resolved to ask for some extra consultation with Friends of Moonee Ponds Creek so that we could work through these issues. We worked through those issues with Friends of Moonee Ponds Creek, and the officers have brought forward a recommendation to us. As I say, it's been through a briefing. We've had 2 weeks to raise issues, and raising issues on the floor once the motion's been moved is really disappointing. So I am, I just would ask if colleagues can try to avoid this kind of disruption to the workings through of these issues. This has been such an ongoing issue for council, and if people could put in the effort and raise issues prior to meetings so that we can sort through things and not leave residents and stakeholders hanging on our words at meetings to see what last minute thing comes up. I would be really grateful. Some of us put in a lot of time to meetings, and it's really frustrating.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adams?
Yeah, look, I agree. This is really disappointing. This is a consultation process that's been very lengthy, and obviously there are a lot of stakeholders who have expressed their views, and I think officers have worked really hard to try to strike a balance, and that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a point of clarification, if I could. Were Essendon Hockey Club involved or notified of the change to the 30 metres being internal facing to being 30 metres any sign?
I suspect that may be too specific of a question to answer, and I'm getting that acknowledgement from the officer. Apology, Councillor Nation.
That's all right. Another point of clarification. Avondale Heights Football Club advised that they would not be able to have signs on their goal end because of this last minute change that's in the report presented to us this evening.
Councillor Nation, too specific of a question at this late notice.
No, that's fine. I don't think that answers it. That if this is the final position that officers have come to based on that conversation with the Friends of Moonee Ponds Creek, then I think it is important that those conversations are then had with the hockey club, with Strathmore Footy Club, with Avondale Heights Football Club, to also get their input. Remember, we consulted on it being 30 metres internal facing signs. The then final discussions were with the Friends of the Creek in regards to the 30 metres, and subsequently the change was made. But did anyone then go back to the sporting clubs and say, this is a significant change? What is your input? Will this impact you? Do you know that you're impacted because your ground is within 17, 18, 19 metres of a waterway? So I'm happy to defer it for 2 weeks to ensure those conversations are had, to ensure that those clubs understand what a couple of the final changes that have been made, so we can make sure it's an amicable outcome between all parties. As councillors have expressed around the chambers, this has been a process that probably started in year 1 of this council. We're about to finish year 3, and we need to make sure that it's an outcome that is equitable for everyone and that people are consulted the whole way along the journey. So I think 2 weeks is an adequate pause just to make sure that those impacted clubs understand the ramifications of these final changes and give them a chance to have input into this final version that is going to get moved by council. So I'm happy to support a deferral. I really hope that we can go back to those clubs just so they can understand the changes, get their final opinions. If they're happy, it's a win-win. We move this and we move on. But I'm happy for that extra check and balance and therefore support Councillor Sharp's deferral motion.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, just really briefly, to be able to respond to some of those comments made. The agenda has been available since Friday, and there has been that opportunity for people to make comment on the agenda or go and seek feedback from particular stakeholders. As I mentioned in speaking to the original motion, the significant landscape overlay is a very sensitive area, and officers have spoken with Friends of Moonee Ponds Creek and with our traditional owner elders about the significance of those areas. I think, you've pointed out a few parts of those sporting fields that are within 30 metres, but sporting fields are more than 30 metres in diameter. There's the whole other side of sporting fields that are available, and structures around that. Look, I don't know the specifics of every oval that's been mentioned, but my point is that there is, whilst one pocket might be within the 30-metre buffer zone, the pocket on the other side of the ground wouldn't be. I think it's been clear that a deferral is the path we're heading down, but I don't think that there's been a failure on the part of our officers to go and speak to people. I think that the consultation was very well undertaken. I guess conversations will happen in the next couple of weeks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I just please ask that debate is through the chair and that people aren't referred to as you in the chamber?
Councillor Nation, although you haven't raised a point of order there, I will agree with the sentiment and just ask councillors to not use the word you during debate. Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Byrne, you're the only councillor who hasn't spoken. Would you like to speak?
Sure, I will foreshadow a motion just in case this gets lost. I will be supporting the deferral though, but I just want to make sure that all of this hard work doesn't go to nothing. Now, whether, I don't have the words in front of me, Mayor, could I ask well, I'm not sure whether it was exactly just deferring to a future meeting or for a fortnight's time, but my understanding, the deferral will mean that the report will come back in the same format of what it is at the moment with the same recommendation. But I think that it's probably a little bit unfair in the thought that councillors haven't necessarily done their work behind the scenes on this. This has been a really, really long process that's taken a tremendous toll on a lot of people. And I think that we save a lot of our debate until we get into the chamber, which is what has happened. And then sometimes people raise things in the debate that may not have crossed, no matter how much research somebody does, it may not have crossed their minds. For instance, the hockey club for me, that wasn't one of the ones that I was looking into. I was very concerned more so about AJ Davis and Canning Street, absolutely. But no, to be honest, the hockey club wasn't one. And I can't really necessarily see a way around that. And it's something that I'll probably want to ask a few more questions about. So I think the whole idea of deferring being shot down when at the end of the day, it's the point C and D of this motion that it affects the most. We've been working so hard to get this right. We're so close to the end. We're going to be leaders in local government in what we're advocating for in these signage changes. we want to get it right. We don't want to come out there with some really bold plan, and that plan for a whole lot of sporting clubs who all build their sporting fields on floodplains, which are often close to waterways, going, what are Moonee Valley thinking? That's ridiculous. Why would you have to have a 30-metre buffer or whatever it might be? So I think we're so close. It would be really good if we could, work as a team, whether it's us, officers, the friends of groups, the sporting clubs. We're so close. I don't think worrying about a couple of weeks or whatever it might be is really the end of the world. So happy to support Councillor Sharp's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. I would say that there hasn't been dissent on this item, so I will put...
It has been.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. In that case, Councillor Sharp, would you like a right of reply?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll just be quick. Look, my apologies for putting this up on the fly tonight. It certainly wasn't intentional. I did not pick up on the item that could potentially have a really big impact on our clubs, and thank you, Council Nation, for bringing up some other clubs that I hadn't even thought of. I thought my main focus, I guess, was Buckley Ward, but noting there are a couple of other clubs that this could really have an impact on. But things like this do happen sometimes in council meetings, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. If we're deferring a report, it's just more conversation so we can make sure that we get the details right, so that we can make sure that we get the correct decision made. That's certainly what I want to do in council. That's what I'm here for, making correct decisions. So I'd like to make sure that all the boxes have been ticked off with this, and certain clubs aren't going to be disadvantaged, which is a big concern of mine. So hopefully we are able to defer it for the next 2 weeks so we can have more of a chat and maybe talk to some other clubs, as Councillor Nation has mentioned too, because I don't know if that has happened. And like I said before, we can have as much consultation as we want as well, and we have had a lot of consultation on this, but sometimes the feedback from the community is just that feedback. It's feedback from the community, but it might not actually work in practice because they might be focused on their own issues as well and not look at sort of potentially bigger picture or bigger impacts. And that's nothing bad. It's just human nature. So hopefully we can get a good grounding on this, more information, and be able to come back in 2 weeks' time with a decision made.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is Councillor Adams, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Sharp, Sypek, Nation, Byrne, Tyson. All those against? Councillor Isa, and I declare that carried. Before we move on to item 9.2, it's been brought to my attention that we missed item 8, reports from delegates. Councillors, can I just ask quickly if there are any reports as your responsibilities as delegates? No? In that case, we will now move to item 9.2, adoption of LADAM management plan, and Councillor Isa has declared a conflict.
Yep, and I just need to, according to our governance rules, declare immediately before the item that I have a conflict in this item. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Give a moment to leave the room. So item 9.2 is adoption of local area traffic management plan, Travancore Precinct. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been quite a long time coming, this one. Originally, this was slated to be finished in the 2020-21 financial year, but due to the COVID impacts, we needed to delay so that we could get better data on what normal conditions in the area were. So it's great to see this one finally come to us for adoption, and thank you to everyone who's taken part and provided comments and for your patience while we put this together. The consultation report shows that there was quite mixed feedback on the draft, and the report details how officers have given attention to all of the feedback in preparing the final LATM. It resulted in one change to the parking management plan on Madura Street, where officers have withdrawn the proposed changes there, and a few additions have been made to the final plans based on the feedback received. There are other points of feedback that the officers have said will be addressed through either clarifications with those who have provided the feedback or can be taken into account during implementation. And in particular, there are a number of items that will require us to put our advocacy hats on, and we know we do that very well, and advocate strongly for changes along Mount Alexander Road, which is a Department of Transport road. And we know it has a number of dangerous crossing points and particularly is dangerous for cyclists. So there's a number of the items that can be implemented through our operational budget, and there are some that will have to come back through our budget process for completion. I really hope that we can see all of this and all of the items in our other completed LATMs implemented in full in the near future, because we know how important it is to ensure that our local roads are safe for everyone who uses them. Thanks.
Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Adams? No? Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Nation?
Thanks, Mayor. Just to note that I know it's not part of this LATM, and I did raise it at the time, that there was a notice of motion that came to Council in regards to safety improvements along Mount Alexander Road, and I think we potentially wrote to the Roads Minister about 3 additional new pedestrian crossings on Mount Alexander Road. I think I spoke at the time that that they would hopefully be integrated into the LATM, but obviously the LATM had already been out and consulted on. So I just would note with our advocacy, if that still is an existing position of council, that as well as this traffic management plan and parking plan, there were further safety improvements along Mount Alexander Road that I believe that we're still advocating for in the form of 2 or 3 new pedestrian crossings. But yeah, otherwise, let's ensure, if we're going to move this tonight, that adequate money is allocated within the budgets to be able to roll out these projects, because I can speak from experience with our Moonee Ponds Holmes Road LATM that there are projects 7 or 8 years old that have been abandoned because they've taken so long to be rolled out. So let's prioritise these road improvements in the annual budget if we say we're going to do them by moving this tonight. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. And we'll now welcome Councillor Isa back. Welcome back, Councillor Isa. We are now on item 9.3, award of the principal contractor for Clifton Park Pavilion, parentheses, negotiation number 100005. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Sharp.
Move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Adams. Councillor Sharp.
This is very, very exciting, and I look forward to seeing this project actually start, which will begin before the end of 2023 and be completed for the 2025 winter sports season. So we're constructing a brand new pavilion up there at Clifton Park, which is desperately needed, and look forward to getting it all started.
Thank you. Councillor Adams.
Nothing further to add, just second Councillor Sharp's excitement with the project starting. Thanks.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, really exciting to be able to award hopefully attend this evening and to have received a number of bidders to ensure that this project can proceed. We know that it has been challenging at times, particularly with projects post-COVID, to try to deliver things within budget. As the report reads, this is going to be revolutionary for Clifton Park. An extra 2 change rooms, a family-friendly facility, eco-credentials as well, and it'll enable the Aberfeldy Footy and Cricket Club to continue to provide such an important service to our immediate community and juniors and seniors throughout the city of Moonee Valley. So really glad to see this project get to this point, and no doubt Mayor or whoever it may be will have a shovel in the ground for the first sod turning, and hopefully we see the facility built by the end of this council term. So credit to everyone to getting this point, and great to see a fantastic team on board to deliver this project.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. This is obviously a very exciting project that's been on the cards for a long time. I think it's worth pointing out that, in case people haven't read budget papers and whatnot, that it is $8.3 million. It is a big capital spend, big investment by this council to deliver for our community. I know there's often some, interesting words that are spoken around how much council spends on various different projects. So I think it's nice to be open about the actual spends, but it's not only just to service a football club and a cricket club, it will actually service thousands and thousands of people that call Clifton Park their home for whatever reason. So it is incredibly exciting that this will be finished in 2025. Thanks.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 9.4 is response to notice of motion number 2023/28, parking at Niddrie Central. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got an alternative to what is in the agenda.
Yep. What is your motion?
The council resolves to A, note the report and attachment 1 detailing council's car parking service agreements with privately owned car parks. B, suspend the provision of parking services for a period of 30 days to allow the parties to the parking agreement to prepare a parking plan required to be included in that agreement. C, authorise the CEO or delegate to include within the parking plan 1. Enforcement to cease at 8 p.m. 2. Each small business shall be issued a minimum of 2 staff permits. 3. The parking restrictions shall be 3p. D. Authorise the CEO or delegate to recommence the provision of parking services under the agreement conditional upon the parking plan being prepared to include those provisions.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Sharp, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I know there's been a number of issues up there with the parking at Niddrie Central, and you certainly yourself, Mayor, detailed that eloquently a few weeks ago when you moved your notice of motion. So this report is following on from that, obviously, and hence the recommendation to hopefully be able to achieve an outcome that is fair and reasonable for everyone who is using the parking at Niddrie Central and shopping at Niddrie Central.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Hodgson, if you would like to speak to the motion, please take a moment.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I don't really have much to add to the comments already made, and note that I'm sure that the hard work that you've put into this, that the Mayor has put into this through in the last couple of months is has led to this conclusion. It's not lightly that we take taking action such as suspending an agreement for renegotiation, but I think that given some of the concerns that have been brought by the community it's warranted in this instance. So happy to support. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I will flag my concerns like I did the first time this came before us as a motion, that I'm concerned about us spending officer time, organisational resources to tell a private operator how they should run their car park. I believe the onus should be on the private operator to work out how the car park is going to be operated on their land, and then if they need to engage us to enforce parking restrictions and to earn revenue through a service agreement, then I'm happy for us to be involved in that part of it. I don't think we should be dictating how a private entity should control parking on private land, and I do think it is an actual an incorrect use, I guess, of officer time. I shouldn't say incorrect use, inefficient use. I don't think our resources should be used for that. So I appreciate that it's probably generates a good outcome, but I do, as I have previously voiced, have concerns about us controlling, dictating, managing parking on private land. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa?
Oh, look, I missed some of what was said. I do apologise. But just in response to the comments just made at the end there, just so that perhaps people understand that the way in which parking enforcement can work on private land is that under the Road Act, and I'll talk over a baby crying, it's okay. I'm sure I can speak loudly, but it probably wouldn't help the crying. That under the relevant legislation, the setup is that councils act as parking enforcement authorities over private land, and there are a number of reasons that particular mechanism's in place, but it is what the legislation provides for. So councils' involvement in this is completely ordinary, and the way that that legislation is set up to manage. Thanks.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Byrne, was that something on your end?
Yeah, I'll speak. I wasn't going to. Sorry, it was sort of a half up, half down. It's harder when I'm on Zoom.
No worries.
I just wanted to take note that obviously what we're putting forward is not what the officers have recommended, particularly for a few of the parts, one being going from the 2 hours to the 3 hours. I personally think that will be okay. It will give people time potentially to leave more of the Niddrie Central and venture down Keeler Road. Maybe that's not ideal for the actual Central though. However, willing to give it a go. And the other one was the 2 parking permits for the small businesses. I think I read that it was 57% of businesses currently have that. 57%. So there will be more, and it also does say in the report that may not be necessary. So it'll be interesting to see what the feedback of that comes back with, if that is what ends up occurring. And I believe, one moment, I apologise, and the enforcement ceasing at 8 p.m. I think that could potentially be a really good result for a lot of the restaurants and people who want to, again, venture out of the Niddrie Central. So it'll be interesting to see where it lands after the 30 days. I hope people don't see the 30 days as a free-for-all, but I am mindful that might happen. But we're trying to get a good outcome for everyone involved. So hopefully we get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, as there's been dissent, I'll ask Councillor Sharp if she'd like to close. No? In that case, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Adams, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Hodgson, Isa, Sharp, Sypek, Tyson. All those against? Councillor Nation. I declare that carried. Item 9.5.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a conflict with this item, so I'll step out.
Thank you. Item 9.5 is response to notice of motion number 2023/25, Coronavirus Pandemic and Recovery Exemptions, Outdoor Dining. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got an amendment to what is in the agenda, please.
Yep.
So that would read, the Council resolves to 1, implement a temporary moratorium on enforcing the strict requirements of the Moonee Valley Planning Scheme for current beneficiaries of the Victorian Government's Clause 52.18 exemption. This moratorium shall take effect immediately upon the 12th of October 2023 expiration of the exemption. Point 2, the moratorium will be in place from 13th of October 2023 until 31st January 2024 to allow current beneficiaries of the exemption to submit planning permit applications for Council's consideration or cease operations allowed by the exemption and return the affected spaces to their previous dates by the specified date. And point 3, the Council notes that officers will continue to communicate updates in relation to the expiration of the Victorian Government's Clause 52.18 exemption in the planning scheme to impacted business operators and, where needed, support businesses to understand how to apply for permit amendments to continue their outdoor trading opportunities.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. I'll just ask governance to change 1, 2 and 3. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Is there a seconder, councillors? Councillor Nation. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. The clause 52.18 exemption was granted by the government and it affects business operators that, hospitality business operators basically. And throughout COVID, the exemption allowed operators to be able to change the use of their spaces or change the use of their outdoor dining spaces depending on what they sort of wanted to do with their business. It was a means of helping hospitality throughout the COVID, the COVID pandemic. So those exemptions are supposed to finish on the 12th of October, but we have not yet heard from the government directly about whether those exemptions will be continuing, and or if they're not continuing, how the government and or council is actually going to help those businesses in achieving help the businesses work through the exemption, because effectively if the exemption stops, they're unable to do what they've been doing, and obviously we don't want that to happen. We value all our hospitality businesses in Moonee Valley, and any business that's using this exemption now. I certainly don't want council to be going into any place on the 13th of October and telling them they have to take out whatever changes they've made because it doesn't comply, because the exemption isn't in place. So my alternative is basically requesting a temporary moratorium, as it points out in number 1 there, and hopefully we get feedback from the government on how this exemption is going to work out and what they're actually planning to do with it, as I said, so council can continue to help our businesses. But we've put a time limit on it until the 31st of January, so hopefully that's certainly long enough to at least be able to be clear and upfront with everybody who's basically benefiting and relying on these exemptions currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Nation, would you like to speak? No? Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'd just like to foreshadow the officer's recommendation. In my reading of the officer's recommendation, the outcome is the same as what Councillor Sharp has proposed, just without having to put on a moratorium. And I'm just a little uncomfortable, and we've talked a bit about moratoriums already tonight. Understanding, this one's a bit more time limited, which is a good thing. But I think that in the event that the clause 52.18 exemptions sunset and businesses that have made use of those exemptions would want to keep the arrangements that they've made beyond that, the process would be that they would apply for a planning permit for those changes that they've made. And as the officer's recommendation indicates, council would support them to apply for a permit amendment to continue their outdoor trading or, whatever other changes they've made. So I think, for the same net outcome, I would rather support the officer's recommendation rather than putting another moratorium in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to point 3, some words at the end of point 3 that read, so comma after opportunities, and then including the reasonable waiver of fees.
Thank you. And is that all, Councillor Isa? Yep. Is there a seconder? Councillor Byrne. Councillor Isa, do you want to speak to your amendment?
I would much prefer to see support by way of waiver of fees than a moratorium. So I'm going to ask Mayor if we might be able to, if this amendment happens to get up, to actually then split the vote. But the reason for this amendment is that I agree with the sentiments expressed by Councillor Hodgson just now in terms of, I think the moratorium's not the useful mechanism here because, hence I think a waiver of fees might provide more support.
Thank you. Councillor Byrne, would you like to speak to the amendment?
My understanding is that, and I don't have the actual written words in front because I'm on Zoom and I can't see the screen.
Before you do, Councillor Byrne, can I just check with governance whether our two councillors who have joined us on Zoom are able to see the screen at the moment? And Councillor Byrne, I'll just ask you to pop yourself on mute for a second. Sorry. Councillors online, I assume you are able to see the screen there, so I'll just give you a moment to familiarise yourself with what's been moved as an amendment in the green. Once you're familiar with all of that, I'll then ask Councillor Byrne if you'd like to continue speaking.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I will. Look, I I seconded this because I thought that it was reasonable and I was taking it within the context of the whole motion, not just necessarily point 3. I think that some of these things that have come out of COVID have been quite good, but they do just take a while to get right and make sure that we've got everything working so that everyone understands it. It is a real shame for business owners and for just people in the general vicinity who want to use these businesses when there isn't a lot of certainty. My understanding is this will create a little bit more certainty. Although just speaking to the amendment, I think that the idea of the reasonable waivers of fees whilst there is this uncertainty is a good idea. So I was happy to support the amendment. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Would any other council like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't understand what the waiver of fees relates to, and I guess I think probably for me it's difficult to put up a motion on the floor talking about fees when there's probably a broader issue that council needs to understand. If we're talking about waiving fees, we don't know how much we might be waiving, we don't know what the actual cost of the fee is. Well, I don't anyway, speaking for myself. So, yeah, and this wasn't mentioned in the briefing a couple of last week. I mentioned the moratorium. I mentioned doing my alternative at the briefing last week. So I can't support fees because I don't understand it. And I don't understand the implications of it, basically.
Thank you,
Thank
Councillor Sharp. Would any other council like to speak to the amendment?
Mayor, is it okay if we just jump off the motion sharing?
I'll just ask
That's right.
comms and governance just to go off the screen share there and maximise.
Appreciate going up though, so thank you. That helped.
Councillor Nation, did you want to speak to the amendment? No? As there's been some dissent, I'll ask Councillor Isa whether she would like a right of reply for the amendment.
Fees relates to fees for planning permits. That's what that relates to. Thanks.
Thank you. I will put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Tyson. All those against is Councillor Sharp, Sypek, Nation. That amendment is carried to form part of the substantive motion. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, councillors, although I've got a lot of scribbles on my paper here tonight. I believe the call was with Councillor Isa, however you moved the amendment, or were you speaking? Okay, thank you. So I've gotten down as Councillors Sharp, Nation and Hodgson as having spoken. Would any other councillor like to speak? You would like to speak? Go ahead, Councillor Isa.
Thanks. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I'd
That's
confused you, Mayor. I apologise. Look, I concur with Councillor Hodgson that I'm probably not comfortable with a moratorium on this at the moment, mainly because the way in which the planning scheme is enforced is that we give people a chance to apply for the permit to be in compliance with the planning scheme, and so there's no particular impact on people, on the people who have put things in place immediately in October. They can put in place planning applications to bring their, whatever it is, outdoor dining or internal works or whatever it is, into compliance with the planning scheme. They can put in a permit. And so I think that the more helpful thing to support those businesses is the amendment that I've put forward, which is the waiving of fees related to that application process. So I thank colleagues for supporting that. Look, moratoriums also, they're not looked upon, well, my understanding is that they're not, they're not looked upon well. We have to be very careful with the way that we might choose to use them. And I think there has been a lot of notice around the expiry dates here. And while we've been advocating, there hasn't been any movement on it. So I think that we have to assume to date that there's not been, given to date there has not been any movement on it, there's unlikely to be any further movement. And as I say, there are other ways that we can support the businesses. Thanks.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to the substantive motion? Oh, sorry, Councillor Isa, were you still speaking?
I was just going to say if I could just request the motion to be split when put to the vote. Thanks.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I will ask the mover, Councillor Sharp, whether she would like to close.
Oh, not really, Mr. Mayor. I think it's pretty explanatory. It's all about, for me, it's just about protecting the businesses that could effectively be told that they have to change or stop doing what they're doing as of the 13th of October. And it is a government exemption, 52.18. The government hasn't made its decision on what it's doing regarding that exemption. So I figured it was only fair to not place such a big burden on our businesses and wait until at least the government had made its decision either way, which I expect they'll have to because it's a COVID pandemic exemption. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Having considered Councillor Isa's request, I will split the motion. However, parts 1 and 2 are reliant on each other. So I will split the votes into 1 and 2 and then 3. So I will first put to the vote 1 and 2. All those in favour? That is Councillor Byrne, Nation, Sypek, Sharp, Tyson. All those against? Councillors Hodgson and Isa. I declare parts 1 and 2 carried. I will now put part 3 to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Byrne, Hodgson, Isa, Sypek, Sharp, Tyson, and those against, Councillor Nation. I declare that carried. We'll now invite Councillor Adams back to the chamber. Also apologise if I'm a little slow, councillors, because you're all out of order with how I normally count the votes. I'm taking it a bit slow. Welcome back, Councillor Adams. Item 9.6 is Annual Financial Report 2022/23. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I will, thanks, Mayor. The 22-23 Annual Financial Report has been prepared in accordance with relevant legislation and the Australian Accounting Standards by Council's Finance Department in consultation with the Victoria Auditor General's Office. VAGO has completed the external audit of the 22-23 Annual Financial Report, and the Audit Committee reviewed the Annual Financial Report at the meeting held Monday the 18th of September 2023. To provide Council with confidence that all issues have been resolved and the Annual Financial Report has been prepared in accordance with good governance principles, a letter of representation has been provided from management to Council. The account statements can be summarised as follows, starting with the income statement. For the year ended 30 June 2023, Council reported an operating surplus of $20.63 million, which compares to a budgeted operating surplus of $14.51 million. The variance of $6.12 million is due to an increase in operating grants of $11.84 million, capital grants of $3.99 million, statutory fees and fines of $2.66 million, other income of $2.39 million, and a reduction in employment costs of $3.77 million. Offsetting this was an increase in materials and services of $10.14 million and depreciation of $6.77 million. With regards to the balance sheet, Council continues to be in a strong financial position, with the balance sheet showing a satisfactory level of cash assets and a positive working capital ratio. The working capital ratio assesses Council's ability to meet current commitments and is calculated by measuring Council's current assets against current liabilities. Council's ratio of 1.61 to 1 is an indicator of Council's strong financial position and means that Council has $1.61 of current assets for each $1 of current liabilities. Council's total equity as at the 30th of June 2023 was $3.02 billion, which is a $99.69 million increase on 21-22. The increase was predominantly due to the increase in the value of property, infrastructure, plant and equipment by $102.07 million. Council's cash for the year ended 30 June 2023 was $59.81 million, represented by cash and cash equivalents of $20.81 million and other current financial assets of $39 million. Other financial assets represent funds on deposit where the investment term is greater than 90 days. This represents a decrease in cash holdings from the prior year of $9.95 million. Of this amount, $7.58 million is restricted cash to be applied to trust funds and deposits. Capital expenditure for the year ended 30 June 2023 was $54.34 million, which was $2.4 million above budget. Major capital works projects to be carried forward into 23-24 include Flemington Library redevelopment, Keeler Road streetscape improvement, Strathnaver Reserve Sports Field upgrade, Military Road traffic signals and Fairbairn Park Southern Modular Pavilion. In conclusion, the annual financial report 22-23 indicates that Council's overall financial position is sound for the year ended 30 June 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to our entire officer team. The putting together of these financial reports is a huge undertaking, and it's been done incredibly well, and that, you know, the financial management of our organisation is in sound hands, not only with the reporting but with the management of that budget. So I just wanted to make that thanks, and happy to endorse this going to the Auditor General. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson, and well multitasked, can I say. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Item 9.7 is certification of the performance statement and governance and management checklist 2022/23. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. This motion seeks to approve and certify the 22-23 performance statement and governance and management checklist, and submits the certified performance statement to the Victorian Auditor General's Office for final audit approval. The performance statement is an accountability document setting out results achieved by Council against a prescribed set of sustainable capacity, service, performance and financial indicators, and is an interesting document to read, actually, as it does provide explanatory commentary regarding performance between the current and previous year. The results are published on the state government's website, so Moonee Valley residents and ratepayers can compare the performance of council to other similar councils on that site. Both the performance statement and governance and management checklist must be included in the annual report in order to meet legislative obligations, and have been received, noted and approved in principle by the Audit and Risk Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought I might get away with that, but I just also want to add my thanks to our team for preparing this report. There were some comments made at the Audit and Risk Committee just around sometimes a percentage. So the performance statement includes a number of percentages in terms of our performance, and the reason that they're percentages is so that they can be easily compared with other councils, and that's part of the way that we're required to report. There were some comments around, for some particular measures, a percentage is not an easy way of determining, specifically for Moonee Valley Council, how well we're doing. And when one of the examples used was, number of Aboriginal children in our maternal child health services, because the number of Aboriginal children in the municipality might be quite low, so represented as a percentage, it might be somewhat misleading. But just to reiterate that it's presented as a percentage so that it can be easily compared across municipalities, and hope that people who are interested in reading the report can understand that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. We now move on to item 9.8.
Mayor, I have a conflict with this item, so I'll step out. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. I'll give you a moment to leave the room. Item 9.8 is endorsement of public memorial applications. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
I move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. So people might remember that when the policy came to us, the memorial policy came to us for endorsement, we included a clause in it that would allow for any applications that maybe didn't meet the other criteria to come to council for approval, and that's what we have before us tonight. 2 applications for plaques on park benches in the municipality. The applications don't meet some of the other elements of the criteria for public memorials, but have come to us on compassionate grounds in compelling circumstances. Now, both of these applications, I think, meet this criterion of compassionate grounds in compelling circumstances, and councillors have some documents before us that detail the circumstances in which the request for a memorial plaque for Olivia Barak and a memorial plaque for Madeline Dosis to be installed in existing park benches in Napier Park and Woodlands Park, respectively. Both of these girls were young Moonee Vallians who have lost their lives in both tragic circumstances, and there are many of us around the table who are parents, and I'm sure that we can think of nothing worse than losing a child. And so the applications that have come to us from family members, I think we all do. I expect that we'd all feel terribly sad and compassionate towards the families. It's lovely, I think, when you go to different areas in Victoria where you see little park benches, plaques on park benches. They tell a story of someone's life. Sometimes there are some little interesting details. Sometimes there's just a name. Sometimes there's something about them that the community wants to remember, and it's a tiny little fragment of someone's life that's captured in that little plaque. but it means a lot to people who can go and sit with that little memory, and it means a lot to the families in this case. And it also helps to build up, I guess, across the community a sense of remembrance for the stories that have been on the land, and I say that with some sense of, I guess, the stories of our Indigenous culture as well, where we can continually find ways of capturing that in our public and civic landscape. So I hope that colleagues share with me the sadness of these families and the hope that these small plaques can bring them some comfort.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I don't really have much more to add, except that I'm happy to endorse the recommendation that plaques be erected for these two young women who were taken far too soon, and hopefully this provides some solace to their families and friends who continue to reside in Moonee Valley and visitors. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I will. Look, I'll just speak on application 2, which was for Madeline Dossis. Madeline passed away at the age of 18 and of August 2020, and I still remember it, the outpouring of grief on social media that happened around that time. Her family, her sister Stephanie and her mother Karen, and the Dossis family known around in the netball community. And it was a real shock for everyone who knew beautiful Madeline. And this is going to be a way, I'm really glad that whilst it's taken some time, there is now a process in place for Madeline to be remembered. I'll also do a shout out to her sister, who I believe is still, or has definitely previously been, raising money for mental health concerns. So well done doing that in such a difficult space. So and thank you to the officers for getting these applications through. Yeah, thanks. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very happy to support both these applications. They're both tragic events, and I think that with councils changing the policy to allow for applications like these, it's certainly a good way forward, and Councillor Adams has been championing that for a little while, so at least we can see the fruits of that change to policy with these applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I absolutely want to concur with all our my colleagues, and I know, speaking to application 1, I didn't know that family as closely as Councillor Adams did, but you'll see on the application that Olivia did a swimming with us up at Windy Hill, and I know that her tragic passing really affected a large cohort of girls that she was connected through school, through sport, through other extracurricular activities. The flow-on effects of the loss of a life are huge within a community, especially for impressionable young children, and it's something that they carry with them and will carry with them for a long period of time, their whole life. So I think small memorials, as simple as a plaque somewhere that person enjoyed going to, enjoyed spending time. It's not just a recognition of their life and a memory of their life, but it'll also give their family and friends an opportunity to spend time in a lovely setting and think about the memories that they shared with that individual, in this case with the two girls. So I really hope that this can be, through this policy, a way of us recognising really everyday people from Moonee Valley that are gone too soon. The more we can get plaques with their names and less of our names, I think the absolute better. Because I do know, particularly for those girls that are really close to Liv and her mum's friends as well, just how devastating the loss was. And I think this is just a really small gesture that hopefully gives just that small little bit of solace to those that were impacted at the time and are no doubt still impacted. So, Mayor, I completely support both these applications, and I hope these are just the first of a few applications coming through where people have tragically lost their lives or need to be remembered. We can do that little part as a council to help share and spread that memory. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak? In that case, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. We'll welcome Councillor Adams back to the chamber. As we hit 8:15 and we have 4 items to go, I will call a 10-minute break and we will return at 8:25. Thank you. And welcome back to the council meeting. We now move on to item 10, notices of motion, and we have 2 on the agenda tonight. 10.1, I'll call on Councillor Isa to present her first notice of motion titled Notice of Motion number 2023/31, Heat Wave Planning and the Jering Flemington Hub.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council resolves to request that the CEO reports back to Council prior to the commencement of summer, a report outlining 1, Council's existing plans for community responses to heat waves and days of extreme heat that could impact health, infrastructure and services. 2, the heat refuges, relief centres and relief services, including council facilities and services in Moonee Valley. 3, the role of the new Jering Flemington Hub. 3, the role the new Jering Flemington Hub plays with respect to the above. 4, community communication plans regarding heatwave preparation and heatwave actions and services, including a breakdown of how we communicate with community segments and vulnerable groups. And 5, any gaps or opportunities that could be put in place with respect to the above prior to summer. And B, prior to the end of May 2024, a report outlining 1, opportunities to improve sharing targeted content with vulnerable community members, including people who are homeless and living in public housing, older people and people with disabilities in preparation for heat waves and days of extreme heat. 2, opportunities for how council can best work in partnership with other services to support at-risk community members preparing for and during heat waves. And 3, reflections and learnings from summer 2023-24 on future heatwave planning.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Is there a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't need to say much. I think the motion is fairly clear. It was interesting that in the Age yesterday there was an article just reminding us of the number of deaths from heat waves compared to even fires. And I remember in 2009 when Black Saturday occurred that the number of people who died in heat waves in the lead up to Black Saturday actually surpassed the number of people who died in the fires. And it's often one of those things that goes underreported, and the more preparation we can do and make sure that there are suitable places for people to go, vulnerable people in particular, and communications around that, then hopefully we can minimise health impacts. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Adams. Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. 10.2, I call on Councillor Isa to present her second notice of motion titled Notice of Motion number 2023/32, Swim Club Access to East Keilor Leisure Centre Outdoor Pool.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council resolves to request the CEO to update Council on A, access to and costs of pool use for swimming clubs at Council's pools, B, suggestions for improving accessibility, consistency and equal opportunity for not-for-profit swimming club use, and C, the inclusion of potential revision of fees for consideration as part of the mid-year budget review.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa.
Again, I don't need to speak to this in great detail. While the title refers to East Keilor Leisure Centre, it's actually the motion itself is actually about council's pools more broadly. I've just had some inquiries from swimming clubs about the way in which pools are allocated for swimming club use, and I guess the analogy is sporting fields and the way that we perhaps allocate our sporting fields to clubs, and it's similar for pools, and there's just a lack of clarity, I think, for swimming clubs around the way that occurs and whether there is equitable access and equitable sort of fee structures and fair fee structures that the swimming clubs can work within. So really I'm just asking for some further information about that by way of an update to councillors so that we can use that information in any future decision making. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgson? No? Would any councillor like to speak? Any other councillor, I should say? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. We now move on to item 11, urgent business. Councillors, do we have any urgent business? Item 12 is confidential reports, and we have 2 listed on the agenda this evening. So, councillors, I need a mover and seconder that council resolves to close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 to discuss the following matters as they are considered confidential under the terms of section 3(1). 12.1 Partnership Opportunity contains confidential information relating to A. Council business information, being information that will prejudice the Council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released, as it relates to consultation between Council and a stakeholder currently taking place. 12.2 is CEO Performance Review 2022/23, contains confidential information relating to F, personal information being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs as it relates to information about the performance of an individual employee. Is there a mover? Councillor Byrne, and a seconder, Councillor Hodgson. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. We've now reached the point in the evening where we say goodnight to those in the chamber and watching online. So I'll close the meeting to the public at 8:32. Thank you for joining us and have a great week.